We've got just over 2 weeks left until the 2018 NFL Draft. Finally, almost there. I'm excited. I know a lot of you have got to be excited. We should be excited. It's part of a long cycle, and it'll be nice when it's finally over. You get to see who your team ends up with and so forth. And then we can immediately start talking about the 2019 draft. And I know you're going to say, oh, screw you, Jeff. Well, screw you. That's how the way it works. You know it. Now, this one is only a one-round edition. You can check out the picks in the description box below. And I know a lot of you are going to be like, killing me, Smalls. It should be 2, 3, 4 rounds. Well, we still got 2 more weeks. 2 more mock drafts still to come. Those will have more picks to them, okay? I just wanted to get this one out today. Now, I want to keep this in mind, and I want you to keep this in mind too, is that even still, a lot of this could be subject to change. A lot of this could be in flux. A lot of this could look a lot different in 2 weeks. And it very likely could. One place that I'm not sure it's going to look a whole lot different is with the first overall pick with the Cleveland Browns. I know before I've been talking about maybe it'd be Sam Darnold, mocking it to be Sam Darnold. You're also starting to hear some reports, a lot of reports about the Browns may prefer Josh Allen. They might like Josh Allen better. And who knows? Maybe that's the ultimate smokescreen. Maybe the Browns are trying to con the Bills into trading up all the way to number 1 if they feel like the Bills really love Josh Allen. And the Browns will take their chances trying to get a quarterback at 4 or potentially moving up from 4 to make sure that they get one. Who knows? But ultimately, the Browns are in this position coming off of an 0-16 season. They must find that guy. And I'm sorry, for me, the guy for them is Josh Allen. It absolutely is. If you want to play it safe and have the fewest people knock you, then you take a Sam Darnold. Yes. But in a class of quarterbacks where they all have the potential to be franchise guys, the big name guys, but they all equally have almost as much of a chance to bust out and flame out, I'm going to gamble on the guy with the most upside, the most pure raw talent, and the most room to grow. And to me, that is Josh Allen. It is not Sam Darnold. It is not Baker Mayfield. It is not Josh Rosen. It is Josh Allen. He has to be the pick at number 1. And it's going to be really funny and ironic, isn't it? Come that day, April 26th, if this is the direction that they go, that after all these years and all the videos mocking the Browns, calling them the skid marks and making fun of them, that it'll be me that will be leading the bandwagon defending them on drafting Josh Allen. It's absolutely insane. I know it is. I'm also starting to wonder, as you've seen some people talking about it out there, so sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire, that the Browns might pass on Saquon Barkley number 4. And I want to make sure I call this out. If they sat there and took somebody like a Quenton Nelson or a Bradley Chubb at number 4, I'll say this. Is as great as Saquon Barkley could be for them, those guys could equally be great for them. And frankly, I would have a really hard time knocking them because technically I have both Bradley Chubb and Quenton Nelson above Saquon Barkley on my overall big board. They are higher rated players to me, higher graded players. So I would not sit there and knock them for that, especially with all the draft pick capital that they have. If they were able to flip back up into the tail end of round 1 and get somebody like, let's say, a Darius Geis. If you're telling me that this team comes out of this draft with Josh Allen, which frankly makes more sense since you've acquired the bridge quarterback in Tyrod Taylor. You're insistent upon starting Tyrod Taylor. You're going to go into the season with him and there's no competition. I feel like that works a lot better with Josh Allen than it does Sam Darnold. Then you better get other guys that can contribute right away. Well, Bradley Chubb or Quenton Nelson, specifically probably Bradley Chubb, especially playing opposite of Myles Garrett, that's scary. And then to be able to come back up and to get Darius Geis later potentially in round 1, that would be an organization-changing draft for the Browns, and I will defend them to the nth degree on it. I absolutely will. But let's say the Browns do take Josh Allen number 1, which is a legitimate possibility at this point. What does that mean for pick number 2? Now you're sitting there and you're the Giants. You've traded away Jason Pierre-Paul. So somebody like Bradley Chubb is a possibility. You want to go with Eli. Somebody like Quenton Nelson or Saquon Barkley is a distinct possibility. But now you've had Sam Darnold fall into your laps, who, according to all reports, is the one quarterback they really like, the one quarterback they really value. And while you could say it's weird to sit there and say you're going all in on Eli, but you end up taking a quarterback number 2 overall, here's the thing. if he's that dude and you believe that he can be that dude for the next 15 years like Eli was for you when you took him in 2004, then you take him and you make absolutely no apologies for it. If Sam Darnold is there at 2 and the Giants love Sam Darnold, then you take that guy 100 out of 100 times. No offense to Bradley Chubb or Quenton Nelson or Saquon Barkley or anybody else. But if Darnold is that guy, then all of those other guys can kick rocks. And all anybody's ever going to remember were the Giants took their guy in Sam Darnold and he's going to the Pro Bowl and leading the team to the playoffs and so forth. If he's your guy, then you take him. It doesn't matter what anybody else offers because this is the potential chance to get a young franchise quarterback. You don't know where you're going to be picking in future years. You don't know what that quarterback class is going to look like in future years. If you like this guy, you must take him now, period, end of discussion. But if you are not sold on Sam Darnold, then Dave Gettleman would be an absolute clown and fool if he does not trade down, if he gets a package that is appealing. If the Bills come up and they sit there and say, we'll give you 12, we'll give you 22, we'll give you pick 53, we'll give you pick 65 and either a 2019 first or second rounder. Would you take that? You have to take that. And you have to trust your scouts, your front office, your own talent evaluation to say, hey, we've got a lot more picks to work with. We could find even more potential impact players for now and the future. To sit there particularly and take a Quenton Nelson or especially a Saquon Barkley when the draft classes are really deep at both of those positions is insane. Now, if they don't get a great offer from the Bills or somebody else, that's a different story. Then take Bradley Chubb. But even then, in that case, why would you sit there and take Bradley Chubb at number 2? It's either quarterback in Sam Darnold or trade the hell down if you're Giants, and that's simple. Now we get to the Jets at number 3. Is it Rosen or is it Mayfield? It feels like even more of the Jets thing to do to take Baker Mayfield, doesn't it? But you're talking about a guy, maybe they think he has the type of swagger that they really need. His concerns are different from Josh Rosen's, and maybe they feel more comfortable with Baker Mayfield. They feel like he's more of a winner. He's a better competitor. And that's very possible the way it could be. They feel like he might play better in the New York market. They might be concerned about Rosen. And here's the thing about Rosen that I've been surprised more people haven't talked about. Is typically big-time future NFL star or NFL starting quarterbacks get coaches raises, contract extensions, if not promotions to other jobs. Josh Rosen was so great at UCLA that Jim Moore ended up getting fired. And I understand there's a variety of factors there. But ultimately, Josh Rosen was there for 3 years, and Jim Moore got his ass fired. Wouldn't that be a little bit of a concern for you? He ended up having his college coach get fired when he left. Moore was gone too. I'm just saying. Now, don't get me wrong, I still got the Bills at this point trading up from 12 to 5 to go get Josh Rosen. Because at that point in time, they've got to make that move. Unless they just love Lamar Jackson, they just sit put and take him in at number 12. Or they believe that potentially Rosen could fall all the way to them to 12, which might seem a bit of a risky strategy at this point in time, especially with the Dolphins ahead of them at 11, especially with the Cardinals. You would envision being potentially desperate to go get a young quarterback, might want to leapfrog them. It feels like the Bills would be a good trade partner with the Broncos, unless the Browns took somebody like a Bradley Chubb at 4, which is always a possibility because if that happens, now Denver at 5 is looking at it and they're like, we like Saquon Barkley. We'll take Saquon Barkley. Now that puts the Colts into play at 6 because if Chubb is gone, you have to envision they're not quite so sold on anybody else outside of maybe Quenton Nelson, but they feel like, hey, we can peel back now the Bills, and it just could be all types of crazy is what I'm getting at. Like in this case, I've got the Niners trading up from 9 to 6 to go get Quenton Nelson. Seems outrageous they would trade it for a guard. Seems outrageous that they would give up picks to move up. But when you look at them, are you really going to invest yet another first rounder on the defensive side of the ball when you just invested your second round pick in this draft into a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, which is ultimately what you did? You need to help out Garoppolo. And you're talking about a San Francisco offensive line with Joe Staley nearing the end of his career. Do you really have that much in terms of Lake and Tomlinson fever that you would pass on the chance to move up just a couple of picks, give up a pick or two to go get a guy like Quenton Nelson who could potentially be an all-pro for the next decade? I mean, ultimately, with bringing in Garoppolo, the ideal thing would be to take an offensive player there. And the best offensive player in this draft that would be left on the board would clearly be Quenton Nelson. So maybe the Colts aren't that in love with them and they peel back. You know, like I said, all types of things could happen. I wouldn't be surprised if my Bears ended up drafting Harold Landry, honestly. If Quenton Nelson there, then he's the guy. I do wonder also if the Bears would try to move up a little bit to ensure they got him, especially because they got his old Notre Dame offensive line coach. He's now there as the O-line coach for the Bears. This could get all types of crazy. And when you look at my mock, understand this. Is some of the preconceived notions we have about players that are going to fall, players that are going to rise, could be right and could be wrong. Or you think this guy's going here. Like, I'm sure I'll get some beef about Roquan Smith going 19 and Leighton Vander Esch going 14. We see this type of shit happen every year during the draft. We do. We absolutely do. So, at this point in time, we shouldn't be that surprised that something like that could potentially happen. I might get some crap about Fitzpatrick going after Derwin James. It's possible. It's very possible. And I know there have to be teams that prefer him over Fitzpatrick. It's just the way it is. And I will go off of my recent history in years of saying, hey, these guys are going to rise and these guys are going to fall, regardless of what everybody else says. I don't hit every single time, but I hit a lot of the damn time, that's for sure. And I hit more often than I miss when talking about players in their draft stock and where they're going to end up going. Well, like I said, though, we still got 2 weeks. 2 weeks. If you're a Cardinals fan, I'm really curious. Would you be happy if Lamar Jackson was there at 15 and your team took him? Let me know. For the other teams, Cleveland fans, Giants fans, Jets fans, Bills fans, what would you think about those quarterbacks? Let me know in the comments. I'll be on here all week doing more scouting reports, more commentaries, and another mock draft will be coming your way next week. Stay tuned.